Go ahead and get started. First of all, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Nice to see such a great crowd. I'm Brandon Hartness. I'm president of the Committee for Better Carolina. We're the main sponsor of tonight's event. I'd also like to thank Brooke Bradley and the Christians United for Israel that are co-sponsoring the event. Before we get started, I'd also just like to thank three individuals, Ben Smith, Mark Seelinger, and Chase Massione, who were a big part of helping to get this event together tonight. Tonight we are honored to have with us longtime political activist and best-selling author, David Horowitz. He has appeared on numerous national media outlets for a number of years, I'm sure most of you know. Most recently, David's been involved in exposing the radicalization of the American universities and the attack on free speech on college campuses. He helped frame the Academic Bill of Rights, seeking to assist students who have been the victim of biased professors and bias in the classroom. David's done extraordinary work exposing how much the contemporary university engages in indoctrination rather than education. And we thank David for all that great work that he's done. David has also done a great deal of work documenting the threat that radical Islam poses to the West, to the United States. And we have brought David to campus tonight to discuss this issue at length, specifically the threat that the Jewish nation of Israel faces in the wake of growing Islamic radicalization in the Middle East and around the world. David's been on the front lines in defense of free societies around the world that share values in common with the United States and the West. And tonight, David will be discussing the threat that Israel, perhaps America's greatest ally, faces every day, the threat that continues to grow and check. Unfortunately, on America's college campus is the Jewish state of Israel has fallen victim to a ruthless campaign of misinformation and hate. It's distorted the facts, and it's really distorted the facts, and it's unfortunately changed its place in the Middle East, changed its place in history in the mind of many college students. I'd just like to say that after the speech there will be an opportunity for questions. So if you have anything, just keep all the distractions, anything like that, to a minimum, or not at all during the speech, for those who actually came to hear David and want to listen to him. With that being said, I'd like everyone to join me in welcoming to UNC Mr. David Horowitz.
Thank you. I want to thank Brandon and the College Republicans and Christians United for Israel for inviting me. I wish I had also been invited by Jewish groups on this campus, but Jewish groups on this campus are in a state of denial when it comes to the threat facing Israel. I'm going to talk about Israel tonight, but this is really about America as well. Israel is the canary in the mine. When you hear Hassan Nasrallah, who is the head of Hezbollah, lead tens of thousands of Muslims in Lebanon in chants of death to America, death to Israel, you see they're linked. When you hear Mahmoud Ahmadinejad say death to Israel, death to America, you see that they're linked. And they're linked, the creator of the linkage, at least slogan-wise, was the Ayatollah Khomeini, who is the leader of the first Islamic Republic in the Middle East and of the jihad, modern jihad against the West. Called America the Great Satan and Israel the Little Satan. It's very important when you're looking at human conflicts to look at people's intentions, so often overlooked. Probably none of you ever wondered why we don't have missiles on our northern border pointing towards Canada. Or an army on the border. And it's because we understand the Canadian intentions towards us, even though they resent America in many ways. I actually have become a sort of a Canadian fan through hockey, but they do. They have a big chip on their shoulder. When it comes to America, we still understand that their intentions towards us are friendly and benign. If people understood or if they read correctly Hitler's intentions in the 30s, 70 million people might be alive. Hitler kept violating the international peace agreements that were meant to keep Germany from re-emerging as a major aggressive power. And he took a piece of Czechoslovakia and a piece of Austria. But there were always people in the West, leaders in the West, who said, we can do business with Hitler, we can negotiate him, we can appease his appetites. And they were wrong. There would be a lot of Jews alive today, more Jews, if they had understood or read the intentions of the Nazis. The Jews, there were 500,000 Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. But they organized themselves, and the Warsaw Ghetto was an actual ghetto. I mean, they couldn't leave. But they organized themselves so it would be easier for the Germans to kill them, because they didn't believe that the Germans, they thought the Germans were too civilized to exterminate them. They were too civilized a people. They misread the intentions of the Germans. So I want to begin this little talk tonight by reading some of the statements of Palestinian leaders. Mahmoud al-Zahar is a founder of Hamas, and its current, one of its two main current leaders. And he has said, there is no place for you Jews among us, and you have no future among the nations of the world. You are headed for annihilation. Ahmad Bahar, who is acting chairman of the Gaza parliament and a member of Hamas, said, be certain that America is on its way to disappear. Allah take hold of the Jews and their allies. Allah take hold of the Americans and their allies. Allah count them and kill them to the last one, and don't leave even one. Chairman of the Gaza parliament. On the Hamas website, the official website of Hamas, there's a video of a Hamas suicide bomber. And he is seen saying this: my message to the Jews is that there is no God but Allah. We are a nation that drinks blood. And we know there is no blood better than the blood of Jews. We will not leave you alone until we have quenched our thirst with your blood, and our children's thirst with your blood. Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, has said that he hopes that we Jews will gather in Israel so he won't have to hunt us down worldwide. Yusuf al-Qaradawi is the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. Spoke to 1 million people in Tahrir Square and said this: throughout history, Allah has imposed upon the Jews people who would punish them for their corruption. The last punishment was carried out by Hitler. By means of all of the things he did to them, even though they exaggerated this issue, he managed to put them in their place. This was divine punishment for them. Allah willing, the next time will be at the hands of the believers. In other words, Islam will finish the job that Hitler started. The Prophet Muhammad has said, the day of judgment will only come when Muslims fight the Jews and kill them, when the Jews hide behind the rocks and the trees, and the rocks and the trees cry out, O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him. That saying of the Prophet is in the Hamas charter, which also says, Islam will obliterate Israel as it has others before it. On American campuses across this country, members of Students for Justice in Palestine and the Muslim Students Association chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." The river is there, that's the Jordan. The sea is there, that's the Mediterranean. That's Israel. From the river to the sea, Israel, Palestine will be free, is a statement of intention to obliterate the state of Israel. Israel is fighting for its survival against people who want to destroy it. What is Palestine? It's not an Arabic name, Palestine. It's a name that was given I'm terrible visually, so this is not going to look like anything, but this area, which is called the West Bank, no, I got that wrong. There. The West Bank is Judea and Samaria, the historic homeland of the Jews. In 66 AD, the Jews had the very bad judgment to go up against the Roman Empire, and they were defeated and crushed, and 1 million were killed. And to humiliate the Jews of Judea, the Romans renamed the area after the Jews' enemies, the Philistines. There were no Arabs, by the way, in this region at the time. It was the plain of Philistina. The Philistines were Aegean sailors. They were red-headed, and they were not Arabs. For 2,000 years after that, well, roughly, 2,000 years after that, there was no people calling itself Palestinian. In fact, there was no people calling itself Palestinian in effect until 1964, 15 years after the State of Israel was created, which is one of the reasons that Newt Gingrich said that the Palestinians are an invented people. They were Arabs who lived in this region. Palestine is the name of a region. It's like New England. In 1948, if you talked about Palestinians, you'd be talking about the Jews. We live in a kind of surreal universe, particularly in universities, which are the most conformist and retrograde intellectually institutions in our country. And that's because it's a one-party state here. So you have people on the left talking to each other with nobody to challenge them. That's why everything I'm going to say tonight probably will sound, bizarre. But if you look at if you can overcome your emotions and actually look at the facts, you'll see that everything that I'm saying is quite correct. The big lie, which is repeated by everyone on the political left, and of course by all the supporters of the Palestinian so-called cause, is this: that Israel occupies Palestinian land, or that it occupies Arab land. The land that Israel was created on, which is the same land that Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Jordan were created on, belonged to the Turks for 400 years prior to that. Turks are not Arabs. The Turks had the bad judgment to join the losing side in the First World War. So the Ottoman Empire was dismantled. And this is just part of international law and international tradition. Of course, the victors decided that the Germans and the Turks, therefore, were aggressors. So they got to divide up the Ottoman Empire. And of course, Woodrow Wilson was against empires anyway. And they carved out 5 nations that I mentioned. And they created these mandates that the British and the French had. And the Palestine Mandate referred to a region, not a people. There were Arabs living in this region, but there was no Palestinian people. And let's see, just so you, this is the West Bank, and Gaza is somewhere down here. Okay. This was the Palestine Mandate. This is 80% of the Palestine Mandate. These two combined is 20%. This whole region is like New England, it's Palestine. In 1922, Churchill gave 80% of the Palestine Mandate to Jordan. Created the state, it was called Transjordan, but Jordan. 70% of the people living in this area are Palestinian Arabs. You never hear anybody complain. And Jordan is ruled by a Hashemite monarchy. Hashemites being ethnically different from the Palestinians who live here. Where's the movement for the self-determination of the Palestinians of Jordan? There is none. There is none, because the agenda of the left and of the Palestinians is to push the Jews into the sea. That's it.